Hello and welcome to Rare Cuts Media Society, the podcast that looks at hidden media gems that will possess your soul. With your host, as always, I'm Andrew Jagoda, and with me we've got Eric Hathorn. How are you today, Eric?
I'm doing great, and a little behind the scenes. I feel completely safe while recording this because I'm already downstairs, so there's no possibility that I can fall down any stairs. Just putting that out there.
There might be something down there with you, though. You never know.
Or maybe I'm that something.
Of course, we've got Mike Ross. How are you today, Mike?
I'm in the safety of a main floor with doors closed, not by any stairs, and the daylight. And it's pretty sunny out, so I'm good.
All right. And of course, Rob Leachik. How are you today, Rob?
I'm good, but I'm in the danger zone. I am upstairs near the stairwell, and our dog is a little wild sometimes, so you never know what could happen.
And to let him explain all of those connections there, we'll stick with Rob.
All right, so we are on to a new theme. We just finished our previous one, so we're on to the theme of concept albums. And for this turn, I selected the 1987 album Abigail by King Diamond. But before we dive into the album and the artist, let's talk about concept albums in general. When one thinks of concept albums, like rock albums kind of really come to mind, stuff from the 60s and 70s, probably specifically. But there's a wide range of times and great albums. Speaking of the 60s, you got Sgt. Pepper's from the Beatles, Ziggy Stardust by Bowie, 2112 by Rush, and then arguably one of the most famous concept albums, The Wall by Pink Floyd, all came out of the 70s, right? But that's not where it ended. Maybe even began. We'll get there in a moment. But Kilroy was here by Styx, Zen Arcade by Husker Du from the 80s, right? More great albums. Exile and Guy Phil from Chicagoan, fellow Chicagoan, Liz Phair, the 90s. And then the 2000s are certainly not left without some excellent concept albums. American Idiot by Green Day, Adele's 25, not a rock album, pop album, Separation Sunday from the Hold Steady, Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar, all great concept albums from the 2000s, 2010s. Lamar's album being the first mentioned here, that's not even a rock album, it's a rap album. So lots of variety in a concept album, not just kind of like what goes in your head of 60s, 70s metal, rock, etc. But beyond that, concept albums go back even much further, but just don't maybe get the visibility, even with a more varied scope. Arguably, one of the first commercial concept albums was Woody Guthrie's Dust Bowl Ballads from 1940. So we're talking 20, 25 years before some of the ones we mentioned here before. And even kind of one doesn't even think of it maybe as one, but it is. Frank Sinatra's Wee Small Hours of the Morning from 1955 is probably the most commercially successful early concept album. So lots of variety, lots of different times that people maybe not expect. To go off on a brief tangent, just as a recommendation, Sinatra had even a more put together and cohesive album that came out almost 15 years later, 1969, called Watertown, about a man's sadness after his wife left him and his two kids for the glitz and glamour of the big city. A sad story, but a great listen, beautiful album, beautiful lyrics. One may not expect from like a Frank Sinatra to have a concept album, but an absolute beauty. So kind of want to open the conversation to everybody. It begs the question, what makes a good concept album? Is it the lyrics? Is it the musical theme? Like, is it the cohesiveness throughout? Like, what is kind of the big defining feature? What is most important? So we're going to go around the corner. We're going to go opposite, counterclockwise for me, at least how I see it. I'm going to go to Jagoda. Jagoda, I want to get your thoughts. What makes that perfect concept album?
For me, it's to make it really a good one, you can have the idea, and it's all dependent on how closely all of the tracks tie into that idea. If you have a concept album where the first 4 songs tie into it, and then the rest kind of, is like maybe loosely, it's not a great concept album. It's got to stay consistent. So for me, it's all about the consistency of that idea.
I like it. Mike R., what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, you gotta keep something overall thematically the same, whether it's lyrically or musically. Because I mean, you can have a great concept album where the music is vastly different from track to track, but overall the narratives are being connected through lyrics in those cases. But again, I don't think it necessarily needs to have lyrics. I think that you can have a concept album that is just based on just melodic themes, and that can also be just as effective. So doesn't have to be narrative. Can be. That makes it easier, I think. But yeah, that's my opinion.
I will jump in before we jump to Eric. I will totally agree with you. I think lyrics help bring it together and make it more tie it easily in one's initial view or listen, but it is certainly not necessary. I think the music, I think if it matches the spirit of the story, verbally said or not, I think that's a key piece of what makes a good concept album. But I wanted to kick on that because I absolutely agree with you there, Mike. Eric, what are your thoughts?
So I'm kind of in the same boat as them a little bit. It's kind of, well, concept albums are also one of those things where like some things are specifically labeled like, okay, that's a concept album. But I feel like it's one of those things where like, you know it when you see it kind of deals with concept albums. And like to claim something like I think there's albums out there that you could make an argument for that they are a concept album, even though the artist maybe didn't come out and say it outright. And then there are ones, there's probably some that I can't think of right now, but like ones where someone's like, this is a concept album. And you're like, are you sure? But
the concept is there is no concept.
I mean, technically that could be a concept. Like, Todd Rundgren made a concept album where and I can't remember the name of it, but he went and re-recorded a bunch of old songs. Like it's a covers album, but they're all covered in a way that he tried to exactly replicate the original recordings, like down to the feedback and the noise and so like the concept is like I can do this technical achievement, and like that's a concept album. Like the theme is the technical achievement. So like it is weird. So like to make a good concept album, it could be anything in a way, as long as like you guys were saying, it kind of sticks to its guns and it stays with whatever that is. And then the follow-up thing is I personally, to make a good concept album, I need a good story. Now that is also up to interpretation, because like the Todd Rundgren one, I think that's a good story of how he made it. But then some stories, like if you talk about like Pink Floyd's The Wall, has a very definite narrative arc to it where it tells a story. So I think the story of it, or the story of how it came to be, or like it needs a concept album. Usually I think it's harder for a concept album to like stand on its own without background, like, like here's how this came to be, or this is the story of it. It's harder for it to stand on its own than like a movie would be. So it needs that. I think a good concept album has that like lore either in it or around it, to kind of help it be the complete package.
I like all the takes here. I think the one thing I would take away from this is I think a concept album, a good one or even a bad one, is all in the eyes of the beholder, right? Because what is that concept you're trying to convey? I think the one good one, the Dust Bowl Ballads from 1940, kind of falls into that line of it's not cohesive of a single story of one person. It's all about Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl, and it's from different points of view, right? But it all falls under that theme. So maybe that isn't, could you say it could be better if it was one story and kind of linked together? Does it create a good sense of connection?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting way to think about it. Like, because now, like, I'm even thinking further back, like records from the early 1900s, Leadbelly. He recorded a lot of things that they were just songs that were sung on plantations. And, a lot of that music would have been lost had he not recorded them. And so in essence, that's a concept album, really.
Yeah. It might be more of a thematic concept album versus a narrative concept album.
Right, exactly.
It definitely is not pigeonholed into like you have to tell a story of a single person or like just definite narrative storyline.
And like technically, like if you get into it and thematically and like things that happen, technically many of Taylor Swift's albums could probably be classified and debated as to whether or not they are all concept albums, at least as of late. You can go that route. But is it? Like, that's what they love about concept albums. Like, is it or is it? And it's like, it depends. It always depends. It always depends.
And I think, at least in my opinion, I guess, again, all in the eyes of the beholder, I think the concept albums that really stick are those ones that tell a narrative type of storyline, be it on one person or a group of people versus kind of that kind of scattered set of stories that kind of fit together. I think it's kind of has that good, like, you watch a really good movie. If it's all disoriented and you don't really know what's going on, it's a little lost versus a movie that might be kind of seem like that, but it kind of comes together all at the end and like, wow, that was a great finish. You tied all the loose ends together. I think that's, in my opinion, where the narrative type of concept albums definitely succeed over those thematic type of ones.
But to your point, Eric, if it's a Taylor Swift one, your easiest bet is to just, if a Swiftie tells you it's a concept album, just agree with them, because otherwise you're going to get the whole, well, this connects to this and this connects to that.
And that's why
listen for 2 hours. So
I think most of them are. I think most of them are concept albums because of that. It just is,
I think we need to go for the longest podcast recording ever. You need to knock on that door and get Sarah in the room here.
Well, you've got to pick a Taylor Swift concept album here.
We can all go watch the Super Bowl and
get her in here talking about Taylor Swift.
All right. So I like where that conversation went to kind of give us a good basis for not just this podcast today, but I think for the next 3, right? Kind of give us a good thing to think about as either you guys are still working on selecting it, but even just as that conversation as we move along, talking through these. So now to the real reason we're here, to talk about some face melting heavy metal. Yes. Maybe it's the paint. I don't know what it is, but my face is melting. I'm not sure. But listening to this album, Abigail by King Diamond, really started to bring back some like major memories from high school, college years. Watching Metal Mania and VH1 Classic, which needs to come back in some capacity, because I'm convinced after listening to this, I need to watch that like on a Friday night when there's nothing good on.
Pluto channel.
Oh, they're neat.
That's what we got to look at. They got
idea.
those. I don't know if they have music videos, but anyways, like that would be where it needs to live.
That would be great. Oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to get on the horn with Pluto right now. But yeah, watching Metal Mania, Eric, in your parents' basement, usually after coming back from seeing your show, like in the city, usually while eating Taco Bell or Wendy's at like 11:30 at night. Or both, yeah, because they're right next to each other. But yeah, this totally brought back stirred some real deep memories of yes, I need to start listening to some more heavy metal. I don't know if this triggered anything for you guys in that way, or was it just like this passing, okay, whatever. But it totally triggered that for me.
So this specific album, I'm gonna say this before Eric, because he's gonna love it, is that it made me think of writing Haunted Mansion.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do love that.
So there's the Disney connection from me.
It does have that. I mean, technically too, in the Haunted Mansion, I know we're getting into this falling down the stairs thing. You don't fall out the stairs, but you technically fall out of a window in the Haunted Mansion to your death. But anyways, yeah.
I gotta say something with that. Though. Now, there's just a thought. Does someone need to get on the horn and connect Disney with King Diamond's people, and then have a Haunted Mansion like collaboration.
So I'll speak to that. So I think King Diamond is too far Pokemon evolved, because I think the original state of King Diamond is Svengoolie, and then he evolves to Gene Simmons, and then he evolves to King Diamond. I think so. Like if he were still Svengoolie, you might be able to, but like in the Pokemon evolution of the makeup and the vibe, it goes Svengoolie, then Gene Simmons, then King Diamond. He's too far gone.
Too far gone. But it could be like an after hours event, right? Adults only at Disney, King Diamond at Haunted Mansion.
That's more of a universal.
Okay, all right.
Halloween Horror Nights, King Diamond. I would do that. I think that would happen. I could see that. I wouldn't do that. I almost said I would do that, and then I was like, no, I think that could happen. I wouldn't go, but.
Get those monster makeup.
Sorry, took a tangent there. Eric, it looks like you were going to go on to something, so not to interrupt, but had to go in there.
Oh, so no, so King Diamond, like I remember King Diamond. So I listened to King Diamond, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was like my go-to metal. I had, like in some circles, King Diamond was the greatest. Like we had some, the more metal versed people would get into the King Diamond of it all. But like I listened to it, but he wasn't my like go-to, but the vibe of this album, there were a lot of times where even the music reminded me of other music. In ways that were sometimes weird and surprising, and I'll maybe later on when we're talking about some of the songs ask you guys if you got a vibe of that during this song. I'll be like, do you guys remember when King Diamond was? No,
is this the Chris Farley show now, Eric H?
Exactly. So no, I did have some like throwback, like especially the album art and stuff like that. Like honestly, I'm probably like if King Diamond's face and the album art of Abigail probably triggered more for me than the music itself. But the music also did give me some good heavy metal throwbacks.
Nice. How about you, Mike? You got some throwbacks? No?
Not so much. The two things that I struggle with is 80s and metal. I was familiar with King Diamond, like I knew him as an artist and I knew his look, but I could never tell you any of his music. I would always gear more towards like an Iron Maiden or something like that. So no, not a whole lot of nostalgia on my end.
That's fair. I'm still contemplating your comment of I can't get past the 80s and metal, or like that is like the height of metal.
I like a lot of different types of music,
but not 80s metal. No,
Eric specifically is the one that he kind of opened this door, because like when I was growing up, the only thing I ever heard in our house was oldies. Like you're saying, Sinatra, you got your Arethas, like that sort of stuff. And then like when I got to 6th grade, I heard Pink Floyd The Wall, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like that was eye-opening for me. And so I just went all in classic rock, mostly 70s. And so 80s was like always kind of like this weird area, but then Eric would expose me to all this random stuff that really, it opened the door, but I don't think he pushed the King Diamond or anything on me.
See, I would have probably been pushing Poison on you more. That's more my 80s metal realm.
Yeah, there was a lot of Poison, a lot of Motley Crue, and
yes. King Diamond's a little further dark on the spectrum.
But even like, I think that's kind of a shame, because like, I mean, there's so much good like non-hair metal from the 80s, like Maiden albums and such, right? So I mean, obviously people say metal from the 80s is just all hair metal, but it's just a little bit of like a lost, just kind of gets thrown under the or thrown behind the chaos of hair metal. But anyway,
yeah, like pop metal took over the airwaves, and then but there was so much other metal Yeah.
All right. So, and Eric, I was expecting you to have the most nostalgia of this than the other two gentlemen
Yes.
on the pod here.
True.
Okay, now we're finally getting to it. It took us a while, but we're getting there to the topic of discussion, Abigail by King Diamond. So to kind of give a little bit more for our listening audience, if you will, unfamiliar with King Diamond, he is a Danish heavy metal musician. His career goes back all the way back to the early 80s with a band called Merciful Fate. He was in that band for, I think, 5-6 years or something. He was formed in the 80s or early 80s. And then he left and he formed the band King Diamond, named after him. As Eric kind of said, King Diamond might not be the most famous of heavy metal musicians, but for someone who listens to metal, they will certainly know who he is. He's very influential in like the metal listening community. But even so, like you said, Mike, you're not a huge fan of metal, but you probably recognize even just his look, his face, right? If you saw him somewhere, like, okay,
definitely.
I know that guy. I might not know who he is, but I know who he is, and I know he's not Alice Cooper. I know he's not Gene Simmons. He's somebody else, but I know who he is.
He's the love child of the two.
He is, literally. And even in interviews that he's given, he said that Gene Simmons and Alice Cooper were his like main inspirations for like his look. I think he actually got sued. I think at some point it was either in the 90s by Gene Simmons for like having his look too similar to him. But that's something you all can look into.
That sounds right. I mean,
it sounds about right. Gene Simmons would probably do something like that. Don't sue me, Gene Simmons.
You have invoked the name, and now the wrath.
But in truth, so like you said, probably not one of the most famous of heavy metal musicians, but probably recognizable even to ones who don't listen to him a lot. The dark nature of his albums and his vocals with his signature use of falsetto, that's what people will probably recognize him most for. But undeniably, his look is probably one of the main things people will remember from King Diamond. To go into a little further, for those who don't know, look up pictures, you'll totally get it. He dresses in these elaborate, macabre outfits, face paint, etc., even to the point where his microphone is like set in a base that's a femur and a tibia bone that's shaped into a cross. So obviously, definitely on the macabre end of things. And then I did read some articles that apparently at some point in the 80s, he used a microphone that was built into a skull, but apparently got stolen or something along the lines, and he never got returned. But so like definitely kind of really off the macabre end there. So let's get into the album itself, Abigail. So the narrative of this story, because this definitely fits into the more narrative concept album, not just thematic. It's about a couple, Jonathan and Miriam, who move into a house despite being warned not to move in by the horsemen they meet along the way while coming to the house. They come to find that a stillborn child is buried in the cellar of the home. Then that ghost of the stillborn child then comes to possess Miriam, as well as becoming her unborn child. Jonathan, kind of through the whole story of the album, struggles what to do. Right? What can he do to save her, Miriam? That is, from getting her out of some sort of like exorcism potentially, but way to protect Miriam. But eventually, kind of comes to the realization that he's probably just going to have to kill her to eliminate Abigail. Obviously, not what he wants to do, but the twist comes later is that in the end, the possessed Miriam actually kills Jonathan, and then Miriam eventually dies in childbirth. So Abigail is then found by the horsemen, who then kill her and then bury her with the silver spikes through, I think it's 9 silver spikes, or was it 7 silver spikes? I can't remember the number. 7. So kind of a cool story, very macabre, matches the King Diamond thing. I guess maybe the point of the story is to always trust horsemen, because apparently they're warning you and then they'll take care of the problem in the end eventually. But
I mean,
So
honestly, we all have a home, and if on the day that we're going to move into that home, we're stopped by how many 7 horsemen or
Seven
whatever,
Horsemen.
Yeah.
and they're like, "Yo, don't move in there." I don't think I'm going to move in there.
I told them not to go to the house today.
So I want
John Wayne.
so obviously Horsemen come and bring that like whole like creepy vibe, right? It's like that 1700s type of feel, 1800s feel. But we'll get into it later. Like, would you get the same impact if somebody drove by like in like a Ford Escort, like, hey, not moving that house?
No,
Seven Mustangs.
It would be in Mustangs and
Ford
Broncos,
Mustangs.
not.
Oh, come on, it could be a Ford Escort. That would be less convincing. You'd be like, beat it, guy. I mean, who drives an Escort anymore? But
I drive a Dodge Stratus.
Then the one in an
Volkswagen
Impala.
Beetle. 7 guys in a Volkswagen.
We'll get into that, like shifting the story to a different era thing towards the end. But the album itself, that's the narrative of the story. But I think the musicality of the album, at least in my opinion, is where this album really shines. I think I'll wait to give all of my thoughts, but that's my initial kind of opinion on this album. So to go back a little bit to what we talked about, what's a good concept album? I kind of open it up to you guys. Like, what did King Diamond and Company do on this album to make it a good, maybe even potentially great concept album? And even personal thoughts. What do you guys think? I'm going to go around the circle in the same way. Jagoda, what do you think, sir?
Well, like I said earlier, I look for consistency, and having a narrative that literally goes step by step each song was, I mean, that's what I look for. So conceptually, it's exactly spot on, because they don't have just like some random song in the middle about, like a frog on the branch outside the house or something. They literally just keep going with it. So conceptually, it's perfect for me.
Nice. Mike R., what were your thoughts on the album? Was it a good concept album? Anything personally you liked on the album?
Can I get into dislikes as well?
Well, no. Well, we will get there eventually. Let's stay positive.
Dang, he really wants to get there.
He always does.
No, I mean, as a concept album, it's effective. Going through the lyrics, you get the whole story. It starts off with, and you get the frame tale, even like you get the backstory inside of the story. So, and it's effective. It works really well, and I think that, without a doubt, it fits the theme of concept album, and it's carried throughout, both narratively, but also musically. They're all pretty tied together.
I agree. Yeah. I'll get to my comments later, but Eric, I want to get your opinions here.
So as you guys probably know from me talking about albums in the past, I have this thing where I don't know the words to songs. I can't, like, if I listen to something, I don't know.
This sounds negative.
No, I am not a lyrics person where I can listen to a song 100 times before I know what the song is technically about, but I'll know the melodies. Oh yeah. I'll know the melodies. So I listened to it and I had no clue what it was about. So then of course I had to go read, like I didn't even have a hint because my brain. Yeah. So I went and read the story. I went and read the story. And like one thing that I will say, like I totally agree with Andrew that like it tells the story in a very effective way. But when I read the story of the album, my brain thought that like certain sections should be longer. And then when I listened to it knowing the story, I was like, dang, this thing is moving faster than I thought it was moving. Like this thing is moving fast. Like I want more in a way. So like I want more, but then I also don't want it to do what Andrew said and like do the weird random song about a frog for like filler. Like it was no filler, but it like the pacing was fast. It's a short album. We're like, when we talk about like Pink Floyd's The Wall being like one of those cornerstones. I know it's big for you, Mike. It's 2 albums. It's 4 sides of a record. And the pacing of it, you know, it pumps the brakes sometimes, but not in a way that detracts from the story. And like, so I can't say that I want it to pump the brakes because it did a good job of what it did. But I wish I would have had a little bit more in some, and not even of the story. Like the story is complete. I wish like maybe some of the parts of the story maybe had a couple of tracks. But then at the same time, some of the songs are longer. Like that last song, I'm like, we're down to the last song with like the Horsemen, and it's like that song could technically be at least 2 songs.
It's
like
over 7.5 minutes long.
Right. And it has musical changes where you could have technically made it. So it's like the thing I think is like the pacing and the track listing left me a little bit like, oh man, I wish they would have done a little more with this or that. But then at the same time, stepping back and look at it, like it was efficient in telling the story in a really cohesive way. So it's more of like my perception versus the reality of it, but I do think that it checks the boxes of a concept album and a good concept album. Like it tells the story, it doesn't veer off the story for anything extra. There's flashbacks, the narrative moves, the action happens on the fretboard also in the solos, and they melt your face off, and that's why they look like it's like black and white paint running down your face. And you know it.
And if you remove the guitar solos, it's 10 minutes shorter. So
probably
right,
20 minutes
as
shorter.
an album.
Maybe the pacing I wanted was more guitar solos.
So I'll jump in here because I think this is a good transition to kind of go from what we like to maybe what quite didn't land as a concept album here. So I will say, I think I agree with you, Eric, that the album musically is phenomenal, right? The solos, right? That fretboard had to be like replaced like 4 times during the recording of this album because all the tapping and everything, right? But it was like great. But I agree with you. I think the pacing and the album probably would have been a little bit better if there were some parts that really slowed down. I think it was the song "The 7th Day of July, 1777." It starts with the acoustic guitar. I believe that's the song that begins with that way. And it's a great slowdown because I think up to that point in the album, other than the initial, like the track, The Funeral, which is just kind of like macabre, like 1700 style music, the album is just like super fast paced, right? I think it needed a little bit more kind of quiet space. But I will say, like, his vocals, and I think the falsetto definitely helps. It definitely creates that level of like panic. I think in the song "Family Ghost," where Jonathan meets the family ghost who's living in the house, like that. I think it totally fits the panic that someone would feel once they meet a ghost. Unless, Mike, you meet a ghost, you're probably like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" But but like,
you got plans later, man.
Watching the Super Bowl, you want to join?
But like meeting a ghost, like that would be an incredibly frightening. That panic and that fear. I think the falsetto of King Diamond totally fits that bill. But to kind of one thing I think didn't quite land for me was I think it definitely missed out on some of the pacing to slow things down at some parts to almost build like some of the parts where Jonathan contemplates like, should I kill Miriam or not? It's still like that speed metal and tap in and everything like that. That seems to be more of something that needs like kind of that smooth, kind of quiet little contemplation. But no, it was just rock straight ahead. So I think that was one thing that didn't quite land for me. I know that Mike, I'm waiting for you, but I'm going to leave you to the end because, well, maybe, I don't know. Let's go with you first. You just bring on the dislike. So, Mike, go ahead. What were your things that maybe didn't quite land for you on the album?
Well, so Eric kind of hinted at it already. I'm similar in the sense that I don't hear lyrics usually. Like I'll be like, oh, I love this song, and I'll listen to it, and then Nicole will come in and be like, why are you listening to this depressing like breakup music? I was like, what are you talking about? It's got a great beat.
It's easy to dance to.
And it's like I don't have any realization, but this was a case where I literally, even when I was really focusing, trying to understand him in falsetto, I really couldn't. And I'm sure there are people out there that are more attuned to it, and so they find it more easy to listen to, and it can decipher what the lyrics are. I couldn't do it, and so yeah, I was listening to the album. I first read through all the lyrics after I had given the initial listen, and then listened again, and I still was like, I'm still not getting it. So then I was literally reading along with the songs so that I could digest what was happening. And so like that's something I struggle with. The bigger issue I have is he has a crazy vocal range using his falsetto. So like he has those deep gravelly singing bits and then the high falsettos. And I would have enjoyed it more if he went into that more with developing these characters, so that, you know, certain tones or volumes were for certain characters, because sometimes like I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a creepy falsetto that ties well with the Abigail voice, and then he's using the same voice for the other characters. I think if he could differentiate between them, that would have been amazing and would have made this an even more effective concept album. So it's not really that negative. It's just like how it could have been really great.
But I think that's kind of what maybe we could strive for, that like through this one and the next 3 podcasts. Like, what is that perfect concept album? And I think I agree with you. I think I didn't think of that, but like almost kind of developing a different voice, especially with his vocal range, right? He would be somebody who would be able to do that versus like you listen to someone else's just kind of a monotone voice. You wouldn't be able to accomplish that. That's a good point.
That and just being more effective with the voice changes, because sometimes he'll like drop out to the dark gravel out of falsetto just for like one word, but it wasn't like a word that really needed emphasis. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, again, more deliberate use of his vocal range.
Jagoda, what do you think? What didn't quite land for you on this album?
Yeah, I mean, like Mike said, for me, the main thing was I had to go back, listen to it with the lyrics on the screen, reading along. And I mean, I love to read, but that's not my version of reading. But the other thing for me was the song Omens. And this kind of ties into what you were saying about like moments to slow down. It seemed like a long song because there was not really a lot of lyrics to it. It was like a couple of omens and then a lot of solo. And I was like, this could use some more omens and maybe some more story in there. Yeah. So maybe that was My Weakest Link, was just that one song. But I mean, overall, yeah, I just having to go back because I'm like, what did he say? Is it my hearing? Am I old?
Am I old? Yeah.
The answer is yes. We are old.
True. But also he's singing all over the place. Like if you look at his sheet music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on a lot. I mean, I'm not with you on the omens though, Andrew, because I think it was all about that. So, but no, anyways. The solos, I do love the solos. There was some good synth in there too, some good synthesizers, which I think is a good piece of 80s metal when you could use a synthesizer in a way. But like to go off the voices and the voice, I agree with you. The voices, and I do think the instrumentation too could have been used to like be more symbolic. Because at first I was like, oh, they're using the acoustic guitar. Is that like a throwback to the 1700s when they're using like the more acoustic instrumentation? Then it like immediately switches. But then like the opening track, which is back in the 1700s, is all synthesizer. And then like the synthesizer comes back, but not always as the flashback, but it is kind of like maybe the mysticism of it. So like I couldn't quite always put my finger on it. Yeah, Mike, you look like you got something.
No, like I'm glad you brought it up because I totally forgotten. But when this album started, I was super excited with just the funeral track because we started getting into like this more classical sound musically. Out of the gate, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be like some Yngwie Malmsteen level classical heavy metal. And then like that theme was not really brought back in so much.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like you could have used the instrumentation more and the voices more to tell that story. And so like I like in my head when I was thinking of like all of my, that's the thing, like all of my pluses, and that's why I think my negatives came out in my pluses, all of my pluses and minuses are kind of wrapped up together. Because then like at the same time, like, okay, if I would have, like, I think the only one I could really say as a negative is like the use of the voices and instrumentation a little more consistently, like you guys were saying. Because then I'm like, if you were to slow it down, would it be a King Diamond album? Like, not really. Like, you're losing the essence of the artist. Because then I think of like Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche, which is like right around this time, and they slow it down in that album, and it's a great concept album. And like the big hit off of that, like Silent Lucidity, is like it's a ballad. It's a slow. There's no ballads in King Diamond world, and it's like I don't know that I would want a King Diamond ballad because that's not his thing, man. It's not his bag, baby. But to give Austin Powers there, So. But anyways, so like I'm always like, you know, like I would have loved for this to slow down, but then it's like, would I have? Because if he would have slowed it down, would it not have felt right for him? So it's kind of one of those things where it's like I like every time I'm like, would I have changed that? I don't know if I would have. Then another piece to that is with regards to like, I don't know that I can ding him on not understanding the concept album the first go around, in the sense that I don't know that I've ever listened to a concept album and gotten the full story just from the album. You know what I mean? Or at least in a first listen. I'm trying to think of an example of a concept album where I listen to it and I'm like, I get that whole thing, the whole from the beginning, middle, and end. I mean, I guess, yeah, like that one did have, but
that
I mean,
one is very straight narrative.
The only thing about that though too is I think part of the allure of a good concept album is it makes me want to go look up more.
Yeah.
And like this did. Like I read some about numerology because there's a lot of numbers in here. And there's this whole thing.
The 18 becomes 9.
The 18 becomes 9, but then the 9 is like the evil number here too, because it's like the 9 months thing. And then here's the secret that I read about, and I was like, oh, King Diamond. So the good is the 7, right? The 7 horsemen is the good. They're like warning you. But then when you look at the 7th day of the 7th month of 1777, and then there's a 1 in there, 5 times 7 is 35, plus 1, 3 plus 6 is 9, or yeah, plus 1 is 36, 3 plus 6 is 9. It's actually evil. Like you came out and said
Taylor
that.
Swift level numeral. That's Taylor
I
Swift.
know. He gets into that. So he thought that stuff out. So like even though the date's full of 7s, if you add it all together, it's a 9. So that's why it's evil. So
you
like he gets into that
here.
stuff because he's got that heebie-jeebie like occultness going on. So he got into that numerology. So like he really like it's a well thought out thing. And it made me look further into it, even though it's not my favorite kind of 80s metal. And it's like my like I love more hooks and stuff like that in music, and there's not like sing-along moments that often in this. So there's like things that personally for me are not like, it's not my ideal concept album, but I can't deny that there's some great stuff happening here. And I think that's kind of that's what I had the whole experience. It's like, I didn't like this, but if it would have changed, would it have been authentic, or would it have just been what I like? And then would it have been as great? So I don't know, but that's my long-winded, I don't know.
So I like it. So you bring up a good point though, Eric. Like you said, like, oh, I really like this. Like when I like something, I kind of want to like dive into it more. So I like the album, but obviously for the sake of the podcast, I had to look into it a little bit deeper. So there's a lot going on here. So he actually did record, like, if you will, a sequel album to this in 2000, Abigail 2, The Revenge. I have yet to listen to it, but that's something I'm definitely going to listen to see kind of where the story goes.
I will tell you, like when you were describing the story of Abigail, all I was going to say, because I didn't listen to it yet, but I read the story of it because where I read Abigail, it had a continuation of Abigail 2. And when you were like, and then they put the 7 spikes and killed, like, I was going to be like, or did they? Because there's some, or did they in Abigail 2 from what I've read.
It's like The Omen. I mean, The Omen just keeps going because they had the first one unsuccessful, and then there's 2 and 3, and then you think that the trilogy's over, and then there's 4, and there's always something else that went wrong. Wasn't quite right.
Jason always comes back.
Yeah, true.
It's true.
For the money.
So
for the money.
So the second album that King Diamond directly recorded, right? So great. Probably a good follow-up listen for all of us. Well, if you so like this album, but all of our listeners as well, if you enjoyed Abigail. The album was also, which I think is almost more interesting, which I need to get it from my library through Swan because I really want to read this. The album was given the visual treatment in 2022 with a graphic novel following the album. So it was illustrated by Dan Waters and Damian Worm. And it follows the story. King Diamond was involved in the art and the publication of it. So it seems like a really cool idea. I really want to read it. I need to get Swan on that. I hope somebody has it in Northeast Illinois because I'm not sure I'll be able to find it. So I guess it kind of begs the question, and we kind of touched on this earlier. How successfully do you think this album and this narrative of the story could transition to a feature film? Obviously, they were able to make it into a graphic novel, but do you think it would transition well into a feature film? Or could you argue the story of demonic possession has been kind of told a little too much? Like The Omen, The Exorcist, right? You probably go on and on and on, but has it been told too much? I got some other thoughts here, other questions, but let's kind of go around the table. Do you guys think this could work as a film? Jagoda, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that possession thing's been told a lot, but it's been told a lot because it works and it gets people interested. And I think that part of it would be keeping it in that timeline, though. I think if you brought it and made it modern, it would be a flop. I think if you kept it in that old, like 1800s, 1700s, it would stand out more. But if you update it and everybody's got a cell phone that suddenly doesn't work, like, it's going to ruin the whole shebang.
They're on AT&T.
Oh no Sprint. Oh.
I got 7 missed calls from these guys called Force. No.
Or somebody rolls up in a Prius next to you. Hey, don't go in that house there, buddy. It doesn't quite have the same feel, right? I kind of agree with you. Mike R., what do you think? Do you think this could work as a feature film? Or just been told too much?
Absolutely. I mean, Andrew said it. I mean, it's been told, but I mean, as long as there's an audience for it, I mean, if you can have a hook or a look that is, a little bit different and can disturb an audience in a new way, people get on board for it. You just have to make it more graphic. I don't know. Are we gonna talk about who we think we should make these films?
Oh, we're getting there.
I'll hold steady.
That's a different band.
There's also a great concept album under their belt. Booyah!
True that. Yeah, as far as the film, I think making it a film would actually improve my pacing concerns. I think it needed that longer. Some of the things needed to be like teased out a little more. The one thing that like, I keep talking about the same things. It's like I'm doing Abigail too over here. But no, I keep talking about the same things because it is that piece that like so many concept albums that have been turned into movies aren't necessarily like the story is there, but the music is also core to the movie. I feel like they would not be able to adapt this as a score and keep it in the same, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to describe that as putting my fist up as like the metal power. Because like if you were going to tell this story on screen and the score was King Diamond, it's going to have a disconnect. In just how it works. Where like if you think of like the Pink Floyd The Wall movie, the visuals and the audio really do match up nicely. If you think of like, I'm trying to think of other like concept albums that got the movie treatment. So like I think it would make a great movie. But I don't know how married the movie can be to the concept album in that it like I feel like that would probably be the biggest downfall if you tried to make it like a metal score without adapting it enough. So it's like that piece. And then at that point, is it just too far away from King Diamonds? But I do definitely think the story itself could make a movie. It's just like how much of the album would you put into it?
Yeah, I agree. I think the piece I would take away from it, remember, the album is 40 minutes long. What would you have a movie that's like 55 minutes long, right? Even an hour, right? You're not going to have a movie just an hour long. So I think it would have to be so separate from the album. Like to your point, how close would it even come to resemble other than just the narrative of the story? The music would have to be different. I think if they had it extended, I think it just would clash if there were parts of the film that were slower. Just to all of a sudden be like nice and quiet, and then all of a sudden you got speed metal and tapping going like crazy. Just the pace of the film. I mean, awesome parts, absolutely, but probably not a very cohesive, like flowing film, if you will. So I personally don't know, and I agree. I think Jagoda, you made the comment. I don't think it would set well in like modern times. It would definitely has to fit into this time period. All right, let's jump to
period piece.
It's definitely a period piece. So. Let's go to Mike. You made a comment. Are we going to talk about like if this would be made a film?
Yeah.
Yes. So if it would be made into a film, like who do you guys think could direct? Who do you think could play in the film? Maybe the most important question: who would Defoe play in this film?
Well, to be devil's advocate against what Andrew said about the modernization of it. You could go with someone who is familiar with more of a gothic horror style, like Mike Flanagan, to direct, because he did the adaptations for Fall of the House of Usher for Netflix, and that's something where I'm sure if people on the surface were like, hey, what if they made that a modernized version of that classic Poe tale, they might be like, oh no, it's not possible, or it might not be that good. But he did it really well. I mean, so I could see someone like him making that sort of adaptation for modernizing this tale. But my go-to is to keep it classical, go with like the 1800s, and have Robert Eggers direct it. He directed The Lighthouse. He directed The Witch. And I think he would do an excellent job making this adaptation. As for Defoe, he would be the elder LaFay from the 1700s, obviously, because he would have the crazy energy to pull off murder.
Are you talking? Are you talking the?
child.
Oh, you're talking the original father of Abigail.
Yes.
I thought you were talking the
I think
family
he would be-
ghost for a moment. Even though I think the family ghost was a
No.
lady, I would still kind of like to see that.
I was going to say he should be the family ghost.
Pretty awesome.
But other characters, like I don't know what role they would be. I mean, you could do something kind of like a Dracula type theme where even the characters are basically reincarnated, and so that you could use the same actors and actresses for the past and for present, playing the different roles. But like one actress that I thought would be really good for Miriam would be Anya Taylor-Joy. I think that she was also in The Witch, but I think again you keep people, and again Eggers has worked with Defoe before in The Lighthouse, so it's like you got everyone you need within your repertoire already. So
I think the one thing I would change from the album to the film, I think the horsemen play a big part at the beginning and the end, right? But they're really not very present through the rest of the album. I think it would be an interesting thing to throw into the film, kind of more of an active role of like continuously trying to guide and warn Jonathan. But I think that would be something I would change from the album. If they wanted to make it a film, definitely something they could squeeze a little extra content. I think they're very interesting characters, like you said, Eric, with the symbolism, with the numerology and all that kind of stuff. There could be even more kind of crazy stuff to be thrown in there. But
I mean, you can go with that. Definitely. I mean, I think that's a great idea. Like, and they don't even have to be so overt as in like, hey, don't go in that house.
Yeah.
They could just be making appearances, and for like each day or whatever that goes by that, you're leading up to it, you see that there's more of these cloaked figures kind of in the background that are starting to appear. And it's like, this foreboding warning that's coming. It could be fun.
It could. It's a decent story.
I would watch an Abigail film. I would do that.
I think Eric would skip.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And like most of the people you're talking about, I'm like, I don't watch those things because they're spoopy. But anyways, so I can, and that's the thing. Like I like about a horror concept album in that I have the distance of my own imagination and the face melting guitars to tell me the story in a way that is acceptable for me, where like I can see this being a movie. I can see me not going to see this movie because it's not my bag, baby.
Well, I'll save it if we want to save it for if we want to save it for the explicit version, and I'll give you a moment to pause to cut it, Eric. But at the end of the film, or at the end of the album, like he goes into that Abigail is the only one alive in the house, and Abigail's in the cellar, and they make a comment about like she's doing something. So I was reading in multiple places. Actually, I think it was like I don't want to say an interview, but like an explanation from King Diamond is that he is actually eating the original the baby Abigail, the newborn, is actually eating the old like sarcophagus of Abigail from 100 years ago. So you don't have to see.
Yeah, I read that one too.
I mean, I think it was in a King Diamond interview. He was like, I was like, I didn't want to say it, but like, that's what was happening.
Yeah.
So in the film, you kind of have no way other than to show it, or at least kind of hint at it. So.
Well, I mean, that happens sort of, not the same thing, but it happens in Night of the Living Dead, where the little girl in the cellar kills her mom with a trowel and then is eating her.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, the metal world, there's a band called Cannibal Corpse. I mean, you know.
Eric, we're already talking about cannibalism, and it's before noon here.
Hey, so. That's how it works.
How about them ribs? How them ribs doing?
Oh, no.
Got to rub them ribs after this.
Metal music, you know.
I mean, if I was making the movie, though, I think I would like Mike said, I'd have Defoe play the Count. But I'd do Pedro Pascal as Jonathan. I think he's got that he could really go from completely normal to, you know, off the wall crazy pretty quick.
Yeah.
Miriam, I think Elizabeth Olsen.
I
think she's.
I could see that. That's a good one.
She's got a lot of practice as Scarlet Witch with all the floating in the air kind of stuff.
Stuff. I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That works. Now the question though is, see, you're going major blockbuster, but if Abigail became a movie, I'm sure it would be a B movie. I don't think it would get the big budget.
No. Jerry Seinfeld.
I think you're overestimating. This would be like a C movie at best.
So, like, then do you
but
put?
I mean, once they get Willem Dafoe to say yes, then everybody else wants to do
that. Does bring it up a little bit, because I was going to say I'm trying to think of like old rare cuts movies, like the dude from the Yellow Wallpaper. No,
you get Guillermo del Toro to direct it.
Oh,
now that's the thing right there. I'll co-sign that.
Yeah,
see
good
that
work. I like that. Yeah. I like those.
So I do think though if they made a movie they would either need to name it something else or really make it clear with trailers that Abigail is not like Annabelle.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people would think, oh, it's another doll movie and get really confused.
King Diamond presents Abigail. A King Diamond joint. No.
There you go. Spike Lee directing.
It'd be a very different movie. I might watch that one. I might watch that one.
Brooklyn.
I would watch that one.
They'd have the Ford. They had the Ford Escort in that one.
It could happen. That could happen. All right, because of how I put the names on the list, because I just leave them where they were the last time. It goes Mike, Andrew, then me, and then it'll switch out. Like we just switch the people out as they switch out.
All right,
that's my ordering method.
For rarity, I know who King Diamond is, but I don't know his music. I want to give him a 4. And theme, it's a concept album. I don't know what
it's very much so.
I mean, there's no. You'd have to convince me pretty hard that it wasn't a concept album.
If it looks like a concept album, sounds like a no.
Walks like a duck.
It's probably
exactly.
Production value. Again, production value it was good, musically excellent, recordings really well done. Vocals, again, that's going to be under more of the enjoyment side of things, because again, like it's falsetto. The recording and production value overall was excellent. Enjoyment, like thematically, it's interesting. I enjoyed it. From that standpoint, but not being able to understand the lyrics on multiple listens that was kind of detracting for me. So this is where I kind of give it the hit of I give it a 3.
Ooh,
So
man, I was waiting for a 2 to come in there. Just saying.
yeah.
Nice.
17, not too shabby.
All right. So for me, rarity, I struggled with because I knew of King Diamond. I'd seen him, heard the name, seen albums shopping in album stores over the years. And when you look it up, they say, "Oh, it's his masterpiece," and I'm like, "So is it really that rare?" So I went 3 on that.
Ooh,
It's
ouch.
it's not an everyday album, but it's also like if you're looking up King Diamond, this is going to hit you. Yeah, and I mean he did a sequel too, so theme full 5 on the theme because I mean,
No
like I said,
notes.
it
No.
conceptually it was completely consistent, and that's what I look for. Production value, I'm going to go 4, just because of that hiccup with like I don't know how they would fix it with him and his voice. I don't think that you really can, but to be able to understand all the lyrics, it's like
King Diamond's coming after both of you guys. Just saying.
Hey,
enjoyment. Again, I'm going to go 3 because I love the concept, but when I can't understand what's going on just listening to it, I kind of go, that's pretty important to the concept. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
And I think I did my math right there on you.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So
yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of in the mix with y'all with some of this. So like and so like this is where it's like hard to rarity. I'm making rarity my soapbox that I'm going to be. It's going to be hard to get a 5 in rarity is my new thing. And honestly, if you get a 5 in rarity, you're probably going down on production value and enjoyment. I'm just saying, because that tends to be the thing. That's my new outlook that I started a few months back. So I for rarity, like King Diamond, like it's like in the metal community, this is a big deal. I had heard this, like and that's the thing. I'm trying to remember if I ever listened to Abigail in completion throughout the back years of King Diamond. Like I listened to King Diamond, and I know I had heard some songs like The Family Ghost, which had a music video on Metal Mania. But like I'm trying to remember if I ever listened to it consistently through as an album until now. But anyways, King Diamond is a big deal. Like King Diamond was on Beavis and Butthead. King Diamond was on King Diamond gets used as like a caricature of underground metal all the time. Just like, I shouldn't say caricature, but like as a like symbol of like, this is underground metal. Look at this dude. Yeah. Yes. Poster child. There it is. So it's like King Diamond, and this being his most popular, is his first concept album, his first like solo concept album.
Second album in truth.
It is, concept. Yes. It is known as like one of his big, like, the rarity comes in King Diamond's rarity, because if King Diamond was Pink Floyd, this would be Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall, but he's not. He's King Diamond. So that's like where like it's his most popular, most famous piece, but he's kind of rare. So that's why I kind of put it in that middle zone of 3. For theme, I think we're all in agreement. It checks all those concept album boxes we talked about. It is perfectly a concept album in all way, shape, or form. I'm going to be like Andrew here and give it the 4, but I'm not going to talk about King Diamond's voice because I'm not making it about that. However, it is kind of about his voice. I go into that like the production choices of the instrumentation and the voice being used in ways that could have upped the value of the production. So it's kind of like those choices, because like I feel like those are not outside of their control. they were choices that could have enhanced the experience. But overall, like as a metal album from 1987, it's firing on all cylinders. So I still wanted to keep it high for that. For enjoyment, I think I have the highest enjoyment score, which is a 4. Like I said, I love the 80s metal. It's not necessarily my top 80s metal genre. I do love the pop metal, the Motley Crues and the Poisons of the world a little bit more strongly. I like a good sing-along chorus, like you get a Bon Jovi chorus going in there. But that it's still in my realm of I enjoyed the guitar solos. I went deeper in the story than I thought I was going to be, because the content of the story is not my bag. But the packaging definitely is. Like, I loved those solos and the synthesizers and the singing and all that. It was a good time. So I gave it a 16. I'm right in the middle of my total score. And it looks like that makes it a 48. So let me pop that in this guy over here. And then I'm going to switch to our big scoreboard. Abigail, 48. Yeah. There we are starting. So here's the outlook then. Mike's got the next one with the 90s. We're going in chronological order until we go back in time at the end with me. But anyways, that's weird how it went in chronological order. So Mike, you got to tell us about what. Oh, see, I see you're actually getting things started here. See, it's always a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I don't know why it's that hard. It should just be.
I don't know either. There you go.
So
he also picked Abigail from 1987 because we're rounding up. No, I'm just
get ready.
Abigail 2. No. Oh goodness. So he's got. As he's filling it in, he's going to be drinking this Pepsi. He's going to be drinking this Pepsi.
Not that Pepsi?
No, this Pepsi. Is that what it's called?
It's Dyspepsy. It is.
Pepsi.
Like I'm drinking this Pepsi?
I promised the last time back in November that for Thanksgiving, I'm not going to pick a depressing pick next time because I feel like thematically, if you go back and you look at all my picks, most of them are pretty depressing or disturbing in some way. So this has significantly less fetal murder than Rob's album.
I think most picks would, though. I think most picks would. No.
That's the tagline. That's the tagline from the album.
It was in the review and
less
Rolling
fetal
Stone.
murder than our last pod.
But it's completely different. And honestly, I have listened to this album since discovering it probably 20 times. It's easy to listen to, but it's different in the sense that it's not like original music really. It's more found sounds and sampling. And I will just say this, that this band was part of the inspiration for artists like Girl Talk. So just in the idea of like copyright and what's actually owned and what you can do with clips of sound. So anyway, and it's about Pepsi. So
now, is
Pepsi?
it
No,
because it is so copyright heavy? Is it on streaming services?
it is.
Okay, so we can still find. I mean, you can find Girl Talk somewhat on Spotify and whatnot too. So that's good. No, I'm excited for this one, Mike, because some of it actually gets into stuff from my pick to be seen soon. Some of your themes.
All right.
I love it. All right. So go listen to Dyspepsy. That's how I'm going to say it. Because I ain't drinking that Coke. I'm drinking Dyspepsy. And meet us next time back here on the Rare Cuts Media Society.